you and what do you do?
Hello. So I'm the Tia Squire, but I usually go by Tia because the silent J in my name tends to scare people. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Program Innovation at Untapped Talent. So I work globally across neuroinclusion, wellness, and talent innovation. And we help organizations design environments where neurodivergent and other like sort of underrepresented groups can thrive as they are. So my work spans across lots of different areas like leadership training, accreditation pathways. I've just activated my AI because apparently I have a voice that it likes to listen to. I don't know if that's like a shared autistic trait where like our voices just activate other people's, or like, you know, like the Siris or the Googles.
Oh,
I don't know if you've run into that, but I seem to have the voice that just activates them.
oh, interesting.
I digress. So yeah, I work across, we do accreditation, research, translation, large-scale employment programs across Australia and internationally. And I also draw on my own lived experience as an autistic and ADHD woman. So I'm really passionate about anything that focuses on inclusion and creating pathways for people that are not traditional. So,
Very
yeah.
cool. Very impressive introduction. It sounds like really interesting work and really quite like at scale work as well. Like the work that you're doing, do you often get to see a lot of the outcomes of the work that you do, or do you go in for sort of a project with a big company, set things up, and then?
So a lot of our models are about embedding neuroinclusion. So we work side by side or internally in the organization with the partner.
Mm-hmm.
So we do actually get to see a lot of the time the outcomes really cool. of a program. And some of the larger programs that have been running for a number of years, we've seen people grow from it being their first job they've ever done to then having like an ongoing career. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention like names of companies we've worked with.
It's fine with me,
not without their permission.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of big banks that we work with, and
Yeah,
one of them
amazing.
in particular, we've had over 15 autistic trainees go through onto ongoing employment through their program very successfully. So that's been super rewarding to see the growth from starting their first sort of career to then becoming a leader or a specialist in their area.
It's incredible. It sounds like it really speaks to that, like not just surviving but thriving in what we do and how we do it. It's really cool. In your work, what are some common executive functioning challenges that you see in people trying to navigate life, work as neurodivergent people?
I guess I can talk to this on two fronts. One, because I'm ADHD myself, so I'm like, oh, how do I? Because a lot of people mistake the fact that if somebody's in a leadership role, it means that they must be like really meeting all of society's expectations around what a leader should look like and all these sorts of things. Like it's like people pretend that leaders don't have executive functioning challenges, but like the reality is whether you're neurodivergent or not, everybody at some point experiences executive functioning challenges. It's just that, you know, obviously neurodivergent people tend to have more spikier profiles. And so I think we were talking about it a little bit earlier about how project management tools in particular don't always seem to be effective in the long term because they don't account for somebody's level of energy or what state they're in. So how I interact with the tool or technology when I'm regulated is completely different from when I'm dysregulated. So that really talks to things like, I guess, working memory strain or emotional regulation under pressure, context switching fatigue, and masking exhaustion as well. So I think really the common executive functioning or self-management challenges that I see a lot of people experience are sort of those things. It's like carrying too much of a mental load. It's really hard to hang on to things. If you're using a tool, but then it gets overwhelming using that tool, you go back to carrying the mental load again, and it just turns into this cycle. And then the other sort of executive functioning challenge I see quite a bit in some of my trainees in some of the programs we have are things like having a different perception of time. So I know many people call it time blindness, but when I was talking to a member of the blind community, they said that they prefer people don't use the word blindness when it doesn't actually refer to someone with a condition.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I prefer to call it like a different perception of time.
Which I think It'd be interesting to chat with members of the neurodivergent community as well about whether I don't necessarily feel that blindness represents my perception of time. It's just that it is really different. Someone explained to me like that for a lot of ADHDers, there's this concept of now and not now.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And I guess one of the really amazing things about the kind of work that I've been doing is the intersectionality, because I've been able to work across many different areas, like working in demographics. And so I've worked with veterans, I've worked with First Nations people, I've worked with Maori, I've worked with just a lot of people, to be honest, and sometimes people with very intersecting identities from marginalized communities. Like, it's possible to be a First Nations and neurodivergent person. And there's all these different, I guess, contexts in which people are experiencing the world around them and interacting with the world around them that are impacted by their identity or by their cognitive processing. And obviously the way that society operates currently is that we tend to favor a particular way of thinking and operating and interacting. And so when you layer the intersectionality on top of that, of the fact if you process things differently, but then you also come from a marginalized identity, it just adds extra layers. So one of the things I've also really learned more about is my own privilege. Like, as an ADHDer, I of course have had my fair share of challenges. I've lived a lot of the challenges that the trainees that I've worked with have as well. So I deeply empathize with them. But again, I could never fully understand the full scope of the challenges of someone of a multiply marginalized identity. So it's been really eye-opening to see that intersect of how neurodivergence is received and portrayed and experienced by people from all different backgrounds and places around the world.
I really like what you've touched on there, that there's multiple dimensions to each of these experiences. Like, every autistic person is so highly unique, but then you also look at the dimension of age or culture or other intersecting experiences, and it's highly unique. And then you start to layer in like how we do work and what is expected, what is the norm. And it sounds really cliche, but that whole like individualistic approach is the only way in my mind to kind of do inclusive work, because every single person is just so individual. This has been super interesting in the sense that I'm hearing from a few different people that we seem to have a set of apps and strategies that live at work and a set of apps and strategies that live at home. I think what's really interesting for Pebbl is that it is going to have the capability to go across both. And you spoke a bit about like challenges with using some pretty heavyweight product management tools, especially when you're busy or your energy is low. What is your take on kind of for work and for home apps and strategies and how they intersect?
It's funny because like the thing I'm thinking about is like the impossible question of how do you achieve work-life balance?
Mythical creature.
There is a dot that connects here in typical autistic fashion. The reason that the work-life balance thing came to mind when you were asking about like how tools can adapt to work and life at the same time is that I've never seen it as a balance. I've seen it as an integration. How well does this tool integrate into my day-to-day needs, or how well do I integrate work into my life in a way that it doesn't result in burnout? If anybody fully cracks that code, let me know. Working on it. Especially when you're passionate about what you do, having to learn as an autistic person that you can get just as exhausted from things you love as things you don't. I'm like, what do you mean? And that sometimes the only way to recover is indeed to rest. I just had this restlessness, obviously being ADHD, as well as this drive from my autism to just do things. And so when I think about from a tool perspective, it's about how does this tool integrate with my day-to-day rhythms? Because many tools don't think about the rhythms from the start of a day to an end of a day. It's not like a real life representation. It's like, okay, well, the rhythm that we're trying to capture with this tool is the hours from 9 to 5 p.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we want to capture this segment of your life and what is going to be most relevant to you to use in that particular segment. And so that's where I think Pebbl is unique in the fact that because it's, a bit more of a less, it requires less cognitive load. And while its functions are simplistic, that's exactly why it would work, because it would be able to adapt to not just the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but to the real life rhythms that people are living and breathing each and every day. And the other thing that I thought would, that sort of plays into is, tools not being designed for sensory needs. Sometimes you don't want to be looking at a screen.
Yeah.
Like if we're looking at a screen for, or a big screen, I should say, like you don't want to have everything on your laptop or everything on your phone. Sometimes having something more tactile, and again, we know how we love our tactile things.
Sticky.
Like, I've got so many of my fidget tools around here.
Doubles as a fidget toy.
For me, it's metal fidget tools or like shuffling card decks. Like I love shuffling. But so having something more tactile, something more present, physical, doesn't have to be on a computer screen or a phone screen. We all know how we doom scroll.
Which is a very intentional thing for Pebbl, that it's there will be options for you to use Pebbl on your phone if you're not wanting to purchase the hardware. But for me, it's just, I have wrestled with every app and blocker and screen time, and it just is too tempting for me to go into my phone as a strategy when all of my cheap dopamine apps and
the phone's a trap.
It's a trap. It is a trap.
Although I did recently have a conversation with Jessica Grounds from Apple, the heads out accessibility here in Sydney, and she showed me some really amazing features on my Apple phone about how I can have certain settings on my phone to lock certain things, keep certain things open. And I've had to play around with it. It's actually been very helpful. So if you want to be a bit of a nerd and dive into the accessibility
I love
settings
things like this.
on your Apple devices, it's fully customizable. I wasn't aware of how customizable it was. Right down to you can choose who can text you when, sort of thing. So that has somewhat helped, because the phone is the hard. That for me is the hardest. I have to catch myself sometimes and be like, put it down. It's been 5 hours. You should have been asleep. I should say I want to be asleep. I try to remove shoulds from my language because so much masking and pressure throughout our whole lives. I'm I try to avoid the word should, but I can't.
But want is a really interesting.
Phone down, and I want to have quality sleep.
Want is a really interesting phrase that comes up a little bit, because sometimes we're balancing multiple wants. If part of my brain wants that instant dopamine, and another part of me wants sleep or wants to go outside, and it's how do we support ourselves with big wants versus little wants.
I think even Pebbl reminding you to switch off your phone and start your shutdown, your relax routine, or even helping you with your morning routine, that sort of thing. I think it'd be great for helping you with washing or meal planning and those sorts of things. Hey, remember to take that out of the fridge at 1 o'clock so it defrosts at this time so you can have it at lunch. Those sorts of things. It's lots of little tiny tasks throughout the day that we don't realize we're carrying the full mental load of, and the way that it integrates with work at the same time. And that's what I was really coming back to, is this concept of integration.
And not just.
And so how does Pebbl integrate with the realistic rhythms that somebody is going through each day? And as we know, for particularly ADHD people, our rhythms change all the time. They're not consistent or predictable. So having a tool that can work with that unpredictableness is necessary.
I really love what you've said there about integrating, because Pebbl is not trying to be your jack of all trades. It's not going to jump in and replace your product management tools. It's not going to replace your calendar, but it is something that is incredibly stupid, simple, and tactile, and hopefully supports you to navigate the spikiness of your day with a little bit of smooth support, because it is a really low barrier to entry. It's off your phone. I love that whole keep it simple, stupid. I have to keep that very front and center, because we've got all of these really complex, amazing tools, but it's the glue in between to actually navigate real life, not this sort of.
In fact, you can wear it as well. I really like, because you can feel that physical presence there, and then it's more tactile. I can just imagine that it'll become like a buddy almost, that you'll just be able to feel its presence.
Yeah, and I've spoken with some friends about this, about the sort of like affection and accountability we can feel for something, even though like this is not a screen. It doesn't. You still feel like a little like, oh, he's my buddy, even though he has no functional, like it's not a Tamagotchi, it's not an AI friend, but there's still something that's like, oh, I'm accountable to you.
Yeah, fun fact is all of my houseplants in my house are named after the Straw Hat crew from One Piece. So behind me over there is Frankie. And then I have my peace lily Chopper, and I have a rubber plant called Luffy. So anyone that watches One Piece will know why the rubber plant is called Luffy. But yeah, I feel a lot of affection for my plants. I know they're technically living beings, but I even give them names.
Yeah. And does that help you with like caring for them as well? And
Oh yeah, if like, you know, Frankie starts looking a bit sad, I'm like, I'm so sorry.
No, Frankie.
here's the filtered water and the, you know.
That's such a good example.
So yeah, like I think like you do sometimes feel affection for, and I think that's a common neurodivergent experience, is like everybody had like that item they felt affection for as a child.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think, look, having something that makes you feel good about, you know, how you're approaching things can be a little bit fun, but also not overly complex.
Yeah, absolutely. We've kind of already covered this in some tangential ways, but are there any glaring gaps that you see in existing supports, particularly for things like remembering, following through, managing overwhelm in relation to tasks?
Yeah, I think like maybe the key point is how technology generally isn't designed with people's changing states in mind. So how we interact with something when we're overwhelmed is going to be completely different. How we interact with something calm. When I was delivering a keynote for UX Australia, this is something that I talked to as well. And so we want whatever products we create or technologies that we have to account for the fact that, you know, people might be having a really bad day, or they might be overwhelmed, or they might be, you know, close to a meltdown or recovering from a meltdown. And so the easier we can make it for them to access supports, the better. So I don't know if that's sort of a universal design principle to think about, because, you know, when you look at personas, the design, it's usually like this person aged this, interested in this, you know, that sort of thing. It's not it's not looking at the changing states of human beings. We're not static.
No,
whether you're neurodivergent or not, we're not
very
static.
dynamic. Yeah, very dynamic experiences.
So that's kind of like the main thing I kind of zero in on in my own experience of interacting with tools and technology, is I'm like, this would be so much easier if they did this and this, or considered this. Whereas, again, this is where I think simplicity, of course, like those sort of complex tools have their place. And again, they're designed for a particular segment or purpose, and they fulfill that. But there are very few things that are designed to work with you across all the different states and experiences that you have throughout a day. And transitions, I should say. We go through a lot of transitions. I was talking about transitions to someone the other day and how they impact, you know, neurodivergent individuals in a general sense. They're like, oh, well, there's not that many transitions in a day. I'm like, walking downstairs to make sure I have lunch is a transition for me that I struggle with every single day when I'm absorbed in my work. The transition of getting from the bed to the shower. If you've ever had trouble going from, oh my God, why did I sit down or lay down and now I need to have a shower, and you beat yourself up for 20 minutes or longer before you actually get in the shower? That's a transition.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that for Pebbl. Like, I'm already using my Pebbl in that way of the alarm goes off at the time I need to do the thing, but I've also got like a primer notification that's, oh, in 20 minutes it's time for lunch, or that kind of keeping me orientated with time, I guess, going back to our discussions of how we experience time. Because if I'm in a hyper-focused bubble and then all of a sudden it's time to get lunch now, no, I'm engrossed. Like I need that kind of transitional in 20 minutes, in 5 minutes.
And the fact that you can just set the time that works for you best. I've kind of found it hard to use like Pomodoro timers and stuff, because it's always the same amount of time, like 5, 10, 15 minutes or that sort of thing. Being able to just say, in this moment, it makes sense for me to set like 20 minutes, because I feel like I will be ready in 20 minutes, rather than having to, again, it's having that flexibility to kind
Yeah.
of design your prompts of how your energy is that day or
Yeah.
where your mind is at that time. If I'm in a super hyper focused state, I'm like, okay, I want to squeeze every bit of energy out because, you know, once we get in those states, we can do incredible work. We're in a state of flow. We don't want to interrupt that. So be like, but to be sensible, 2 hours from now, I'm going to stop, regardless if I'm still in like, because it'll be unhealthy for me if I continue without sustenance. And that has been one of the hardest things for me throughout the entirety of my career, is just being okay to step away even when I'm in a flow state.
Because it's enjoyable.
It's enjoyable. Yeah.
No, I really like that, and that's part of Pebbl, is that I'm not following something like the Pomodoro method. I'm just setting up focus bubbles. And you could set a bubble for 20 minutes to get something done you really don't want to do, and that might feel like an incredibly long 20 minutes. Or you can set up a focus bubble to say, it's Saturday, I've got 3 hours to engage in some special interest, but after that 3 hours, it is time to take a shower, have some food. But it's giving choices. I think that is really one of the key things I'm learning as I develop Pebbl, is how can we keep this really low barrier to effort and full of choices so that it can stick with people through their dynamic energy and capacity.
Yeah.
This has been so interesting. What do you think I should do next for the Pebbl project? What should I go and do right now?
That's a good question. I think like a lot of the things you're already doing, like you're co-designing or even almost fully designing, I would say, considering that you yourself are ADHD. Because like a lot of the things I see as people building products in this space, because like there's more awareness around the fact that, you know, the global estimate, which is, we know the global estimate is purely that, an estimate is 1 in 5. That's based on, you know, widely sparse data from across the globe. So, but realistically, it's probably more like 1 in 3, if I was to make a guess, of people that have neurodivergent traits. And so a lot of people are creating products where they realize that there's a significant audience for them, but they're not always involving the people, or sometimes they fall into the pitfall that they're neurodivergent, so they must know what other neurodivergent people need. But as we were talking about before, we are very unique. Sure, we have our shared traits, but and shared experiences that we can relate and resonate with, but ultimately we are, as individuals, very unique. And so the more that you can involve people from different backgrounds, especially those who are not as present in research, unfortunately, so people from like our LGBTQIA plus community, people from different cultural backgrounds, different geographical backgrounds. I'd be trying to involve as many different voices as possible to capture
rainbow
the full
of intersectionality.
Exactly. Because like sometimes I'll walk into a room and it's just all very same. And I'm like, look, I think this is great, but who's not at the table? And who's part of our audience that's not here yet? So that's always like the first kind of point of
co-design,
advice,
in capital letters underlined 3 times, co-design with everyone, and not just with a convenient subset of
and community. Have diversity. I will happily give up my place for someone that is from an underrepresented community at any point in time.
I think it's just that, isn't it? It's building a really rich and diverse community.
I think, look, this might be a bit controversial to say, but I think we have enough visibility from the white academic community. I think we need more visibility of people that aren't necessarily academics or white presenting. And
that shouldn't be a controversial thing to say, because you look at the representation of the workforce, or you know, it shouldn't be controversial to say as well, but like representation beyond the workforce, because not everyone can work.
Absolutely.
It does not look the same as the stereotypical decision-making room, and it should, because that is co-design in essence, is it needs, like, whoever's making the decisions needs to reflect the full rainbow of people that are actually gonna hopefully
And it's not always easy to
benefit from.
achieve. Like there are like cultural barriers and societal barriers to people feeling safe to disclose or to talk about these things, or to be like I guess perceived. I think we all understand some of us not wanting to be perceived. For me, because of the type of work I do, I still sometimes feel a bit awkward or uncomfortable when I'm sharing my lived experiences, but at the same time, like this is what I do and I do have a passion for it, but not everybody is of that mind. Or they just might not feel safe because depending on where they are or the level of understanding around them, disclosure can actually be a risk. So there are a lot of things to consider, but as much as possible, I think having that diversity of thought and that respect for the intersectionality and the different experiences is one of the guiding principles, I think, of all the work I do. And I think that any product that is wanting to target specifically
I feel like we've seen this again and again as well. The more diversity that is represented in development and decision making, the more genuinely authentic the tools or solutions or strategies that come out of the work, because they are not based on assumptions.
Another like really random idea I had.
Yeah.
It might be pretty out of left field. But like somatic therapy?
Yes.
Like,
big fan.
Tapping and bringing yourself back. What if like Pebbl had some like rituals that you could do in its functions, like maybe to turn it on, you had to like tap a certain amount of times, or
interesting.
Like something that could get people like focused on the present, because I know we're so much up in here all the time. And one of the things I've been trying to learn more about is somatic therapy, because having poor interoception.
And I guess for anyone watching that's not familiar, like somatic is the approach of going body up instead of brain down. Like a lot of meditation or therapy strategies are about going brain downwards, but there's some really like simple animalistic things that we can do with our body that create calm that comes up to the brain, and it has been incredibly effective for me.
I still need to do a bit more on that, but I was just thinking, because it's a tactile object, like you could even get it to do a grounding exercise, like when you're having an anxiety attack or you're on the verge of a meltdown and you just need something to ground you, having something physical and tactile that you can interact with, or that sort of thing. So that might be a little bit outside of the scope of what you were considering, but it was just an idea that popped into my head, because again, I often will like squeeze. This is why I have metal ones, because I think I'd break the squishy ones.
And I mean, Pebbl's pretty solid and robust. So
good, because it might get a squeeze.
No, that is a really great side idea, and we're building this bank of community ideas for now, for soon, for in the future. So thank you for that. Did you have any last, I don't know, bits or pieces you feel like you want to share in relation to the project?
Like, other than the fact I think that you're incredible and this is amazing.
That's very kind.
No, like I'm thinking, because my brain obviously like is like a spider web, but it's like
many
what do I want to draw in on? I think like really what Pebbl's advantages is, maybe because we brought up transitions earlier and I wasn't really thinking about it specifically, but now that I think about it more, I think that Pebbl could really help with the way that particularly many neurodivergent people, speaking from a general sense, experience challenges with transitions. And I think for myself, when I'm thinking about how I personally use Pebbl, it would be for helping with those transitions. And I'm thinking about how you could potentially like partner with different organizations as well, like the Sunflower Lanyard.
Yeah, well, that's where it lives for me. Yeah.
Right. So I also have my bags in my room, but I have my Sunflower Lanyard as well, which I tend to use when I travel in airports, because airports for me are like not my favorite place. And I guess, I mean, testing it in a workplace and home environment both, to see how people are using it in those different contexts would be really interesting.
Yeah, I think the beta program is going to be fascinating because it's going to be that diversity of different intersectional representations. The beta will be as diverse as possible in terms of people that have neurodivergent traits versus diagnoses versus people that are have a lot of cognitive demand on them, being busy or being parents, and really letting people run wild and go, how did you use this? I'm not going to tell you how to use it. Off you go. Let me know, what did you use it for? What did it work for? When did it flop? Is going to be so fun and so interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to, help in any way that I can, because again, anything that makes people feel well supported so that they can be included. I feel particularly passionate about workplaces because our workplaces reflect society. The more inclusive our workplaces become, the more inclusive society becomes as a whole.
Yeah.
So, but I also really understand the challenges of, navigating the home challenges as well. Like, I have an autistic ADHD son who's 15. My husband's also neurodivergent. And so we're like a fully neurodivergent household.
Yeah.
And we are constantly, as we learn and grow and, experience the world around us, trying to find ways that make the world a little bit kinder for us all to live in and interact in.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky that I'm surrounded by people in this community who really care a lot about making spaces for us where we can be our authentic selves and have those supports without guilt or being looked at differently. So, yeah, I think that the more that we explore things that work, even things that might be simplistic in design rather than complex, the better. And I just want to be able to see more people be seen for who they are and appreciated for who they are and supported for who they are. Yeah. And it's tools like this that I think are going to be able to accomplish that. So, so thank you very much for having me as part of this journey and including me. And I hope that anyone who might potentially be this interview or or is thinking about supporting Pebbl, that they do, because it's these kind of businesses that are created, as cliche as it sounds, but through heart, are the ones that go on to make a real big difference. So
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and your input today, and what a beautiful way to kind of end this conversation. Couldn't say it any better myself, so thank you so much.
Anytime.
Okay,
thanks.